IGN has, by what I can only assume to be sheer unadulterated coincidence, committed an act of journalism. I know. A rarity to be sure, as I think this brings the total number up to what? 3 now, over the course of the last 10 odd years, as a combined effort of the entire mainstream entertainment industry. And the best part is, the writers themselves don't seem to realize what they've actually revealed here either, as the title, Inside Out 2 was the hit Pixar needed, but the laid-off employees who crunched on it are still hurting, is actually largely irrelevant to what the actually interesting part within this very, 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 very long article here actually is, because, well, here's the thing. Crunch, mass amounts of overtime, which is what the majority of the article concerns itself with, it sucks, absolutely. And in an ideal world with an ideally planned out project, that should not be necessary. Especially as they also mention problems where parts of the team are overloaded at one time and another part of the team is doing absolutely nothing, speaking to just poor project management in essence. However, what is far more interesting here is of course the fact that crunch, though it may suck, is still an indicator that you are at the very least employed. Which, with the current state of the entertainment industry, is by no stretch of the imagination a guarantee, largely due to forces that we covered yesterday in the, yes, Go Woke, Go Broke is actually a reality video, as the very interesting part is, outside of the financial strain of it all, sources also paint a picture of a studio that's terrified to rock the boat with some internally pushing to avoid LGBTQ themes. Oh, really now? The lesson is finally beginning to sink in, is it? Now, I've talked about this on quite a few occasions for quite a few years now, how the tides have appeared to be turning for a very long time, and how 2024 is in all due likelihood the moment where we actually finally crested the wave and started seeing some actual progress in the anti-wokeist cultural war. The era of our actual victory is ahead of us rather than behind us or even where we stand right now. And a lot of the corporations are beginning to learn this lesson. In fact, Pixar has already learned it, as there are mentions later on in this article suggesting that already in 2022 and 2023 did they start to realize that yes, what they've been doing doesn't work. It doesn't earn them money, and they need to change course quickly. So, the article is, as mentioned, very long, so I picked out a few salient pieces, as a lot of this, of course, refers to the failure of Lightyear. Lightyear was set up to be a guaranteed, unequivocal success. It should have been a slam dunk, the likes of which the entertainment industry has rarely seen, as Buzz Lightyear, of course, is a member of one of the most popular animated series ever, Toy Story, and this is his origin story as the actual, Intergalactic Ranger or something. It should be a pretty damn simple production, but it flopped massively, earning I think a grand total of $200 and something million, which is far shy of the necessary $600 that Pixar now claims that they needed to even break even. So, let's begin here. That was the pressure felt by everybody, one source says. We need this movie to succeed because we won't have a studio otherwise. This then is the catalyst for change. The realization that if Pixar can't actually start creating a product somebody wants to pay money for, they will not be a studio any longer. And that is the pressure that everybody felt the whole time. The whole time, even now, I think people are gone, still feeling that pressure of like, oh my god, we did it, as Pixar's Inside Out was a massive success, like $1.6 billion success. Whether or not Pixar was actually in danger isn't confirmed, but in a Time interview just before the release of Inside Out 2, that doctor said, it doesn't do well at the theater. I think it just means we're going to have to think even more radically about how we run our business. And this is after them firing, I think, 14% of their workforce. And considering the dire straits that Disney was in as well, there is a very good chance that whilst Pixar would probably not have been killed, it would maybe have been gutted by another failure. So, multiple sources say that the Disney leadership internally put a large part of the blame for Lightyear's financial failure on a same-sex kiss in the film. So this is Disney, the corporate overlords of Pixar, leaning in and going, hey, this should have been a success. How did you mess this up? Our analysts are looking at the internet right now, and this is what they're seeing. As reported at the time, there were many reasons why Lightyear disappointed at the box office. A confusing spin-off concept, a new voice of Buzz, growing pains ingoing from Disney Plus back to a theatrical. Dr. Eve admitted that it prompted a lot of soul searching at the studio, citing some of Lightyear's conceptuals and character issues, this being one of them, which was briefly removed, then reinstated after internal staff uproar. That probably has something to do with the 14% firings as well. In a joint statement to Walt Disney Company leadership, LGBTQ workers and allies at Pixar, said leadership was censoring overtly gay affection at a time when employees were also protesting the company's response to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which the employees deemed to not be radically left-wing enough. It is, as far as I know, still a thing where leadership, they'll bring up Lightyear specifically and say, oh, Lightyear was a financial failure because it had a queer kiss in it. One source tells IGN that's not the reason the movie failed. No, see, that's actually true. It is not the only reason why it failed, but it is a big part of it. The replacement of Buzz's voice was a huge one, and the addition of yet further nonsense on top of that. Wokeist propaganda in a time and place where we can recognize it for what it is, caused the uproar. And I even defended it at the time, which I got a strike from YouTube for, mind you. Last time I defend anything Pixar or anybody else does, I'll guarantee you that. But I said that the same-sex kiss in and of itself is not a big deal. It is not a problem to have a gay character even in a Pixar movie. What is the problem is the fact that we know the agenda behind it. I played a clip then, which I can't play anymore because apparently that was what I got struck for, where a Disney employee claimed that she's forcing the queer agenda into anything and everything she can get her hand on. That is the problem, the political agenda behind it. If it was simply a natural part of the story, no one would actually care, as we have seen throughout the history of animations and entertainment. But we know why, and we object to the why. Now, Dr. largely used the language of making universal stories. I remember that one. Disney talked about returning to the universal stories a few years ago, which to him means something that's very homogeneous that anyone can relate to, one source says. Correct. That is how you actually earn money. You want to see the wider audience? Well, there you go. Everybody who's watching this right now, people in general, the normies, they are the wider audience. They don't want queer propaganda in their movies. They want the universal entertainment. They want a good versus evil story with a simple and understandable moral at the end. They want old Disney. That is what they want. That is what they clamor for, and that is what they have been begging for. And, well, Inside Out 2, which I did actually sit down to watch before recording this video, and, well, I only survived about 22 minutes before I wanted to end myself. It was very banal and basic, but again, it's a children's movie. It's supposed to be. The apparent hesitance to touch on LGBTQ themes, storylines in particular, affected Inside Out 2's development. According to several of our sources, multiple people recall hearing about conscientious notes to make Riley, the main character of both Inside Out movies, come across as less gay, leading to numerous edits ramped up around September 2023, after the resolution of the WGA strike. That's the Writers Guild of America strike, I believe. Sources describe rumors that there was special care put into making the relationship between Riley and Val, a supporting character introduced in Inside Out 2, seem as platonic as possible, even requiring edits to the lighting and tone of certain scenes to remove any trace of romantic chemistry. One source described it as just doing a lot of extra work to make sure that no one would potentially see them as not straight. So, just to add a little bit of context here, Riley is a 13-year-old girl. And Val, I think as a 14-year-old girl, yes, making sure that there is no sort of romantic chemistry between a pair of little children is a relatively natural and normal thing to do. You are making a children's movie where the main character hasn't even hit puberty yet. Indeed, inserting sexuality into this story, into this setting, is weird. Really, really goddamn weird. And the fact that this even comes up as an objection makes me think that there was somebody within Pixar who was looking at this 13-year-old girl and thinking, I wonder how I can use this to spread my sexuality. You really should consider installing a wood chipper or two at your company, it sounds like, as of course, this is entirely normal. Yes, the Disney execs should indeed be looking at their children's movie to the point of adjusting lighting and scene arrangements to make sure that there is no sexual tension between the children in the movie. I mean, holy shit. It's just... This is what I'm referring to when I'm saying that at least if you're doing crunch, you still have a job, and that's not guaranteed. You think Buzz Lightyear was a flop? You think Lightyear was bad with the same-sex kiss? Can you imagine the blowback? Should you actually have succeeded in making a romance between literal children a part of your Pixar animated history? It's the insanity the likes of which it is difficult to actually conceptualize. And the very fact that people are then looking at that as if people removing that problem might in some way be an element that they could critique. Holy hell, it is, well, I don't really know how to describe it, honestly. It is not only ridiculous, it is frankly disturbing. It is worth noting that Pixar released a short in 2015 that followed Riley's first date with a boy, also weird by the way. Still, many fans online started to call out queer coding in Inside Out 2 from the moment the first trailer arrived. Inside Out 2, spoiler force, the movie also teased a deep dark secret that Riley was harboring throughout, only to reveal in the post-credit credit that the secret was the one she burned a hole in the carpet. Many fans, however, thought the reveal would be that Riley was actually grappling with her sexuality and even feel baited over what it actually was. So, just in case, by some coincidence, that you were thinking that, oh Arch, you're overblowing this. It's not like anybody there is actually thinking of sexualizing the 13-year-old child, or forcing their sexuality onto her when she should not even know the concept, practically. Oh no, that's not happening. Well, I present to you Exhibit A, queer-coded. And apparently, some people were looking at this and feeling disappointed that the 13-year-old wasn't adequately sexualized. No matter, in this year, in our Lord's 2024, no matter how bad you think a thing is, you're mistaken. It is significantly worse. Mind you, Riley is not canonically gay, one source says. In the film, what you saw, nothing but Riley says that she is gay, but it's kind of inferred based on certain contexts. This, I would to remind you again also, is one of the Pixar employees here now going, she's not canonically gay, this 13-year-old child, but, you can infer it based on certain contexts. And so that is something that they tried to play down at multiple points. Good. It very much so sounds like Pixar was actually trying to flag this, that they were trying to indicate it, that there was a considerable movement within the company to try and make this a focus, and then the executives came down from up high and said, no, you shall not sexualize the 13-year-old, one way or another. Another source calls some leadership uncomfortable with queer themes at large. Oh boy, I wonder why. And the insistence on keeping those themes out of Inside Out 2 was a big thing throughout development. Again, I love the way that this is presented as if it is somehow unreasonable for the executives to be uncomfortable with discussing the sexuality of a 13-year-old. Holy shit. Again, no matter what you can imagine, reality is worse. Others have concerns about the culture at Pixar, and the storytelling there leaning more towards the Universal Stories directive, especially with the apparent aversion to LGBTQ themes. A lot of us accepted the fact that we may never see a major gay character in a Pixar movie, says one source. So, this is a good point to kind of wrap this up with a brief discussion on the wider context here. Should there ever be a gay character in a Pixar movie? I would largely say, in the context of the current year, no. Because it's going to be made by the people who don't understand why worrying about sexuality in a movie about a 13-year-old is actually a pretty normal thing to do. It's pretty normal for the Disney executives to go in and say, no, let's not focus on the sexuality of the 13-year-old. And the very fact that studio employees apparently have a problem with that make me think that these people should not be trusted with such a subject, because you could make a fairly interesting, nuanced, and complex exploration on the feelings of a gay person awakening to these feelings, that sexuality, the kind of struggles they go through, the mental anguish, they wonder what they actually are, if they'll be accepted into society, the internal conflicts. You can absolutely explore this in a nuanced and interesting way, but can Pixar do it? Today? I doubt it. And furthermore, is that truly a topic we need a multi-billion-dollar company to talk to children about? This is the most difficult of conversations, isn't it? The birds and the bees and the eternal conversation, I suppose, over who should have the responsibility of having it with kids. The government, via the schooling system, entertainment, God help us, please not, or the parents. And largely, I feel like the responsibility of that needs to lay on the parents, rather than any outside force, as, well, again, this leads us back to the Buzz Lightyear same-sex kiss, in that the problem isn't that you had a same-sex kiss, the problem is the why you had the same-sex kiss. This is why Pixar should not be trusted to talk to children about sexuality, even more so when you're targeting an age group of 13-year-olds. God help me. We used to understand that propagandizing children was kind of what the bad guys did, the socialists of various stripes, for example, and the rest of us would avoid this and allow children to grow up as children rather than attempting to forcibly make them adults. That's the problem. Could we do this? Theoretically, yes. Should Pixar be doing it? No. No, no, no. And the fact that the executives at Disney are finally actually beginning to understand that, too, is good. And as for the Universal Stories, well, here's the thing. The entire article, at length, essentially complains about layoffs, complains about people losing their jobs and becoming financially insecure. Okay, that sucks. You know how to avoid people becoming financially insecure? You know how to avoid people being laid off from their jobs? Creating a product that sells. It really is that simple. Again, if you want to appeal to the widest possible market, it is not the left-wing market. It isn't even the right-wing market, it is the normie market. And frankly, the normie market has barely changed since the goddamn 50s and 40s, alright? If you simply create a good, wholesome, good versus evil story with a solid moral, without any undue propaganda, in all due likelihood, it will sell. And Inside Out 2, for all of its weaponized cringe, was in essence just that. And they were awarded with a $1.6 billion box office success. there is a lesson to be learned there, one that Disney, one that Pixar, and one that countless corporations is slowly but surely beginning to learn. Reject the woke, embrace the normies. Simple, really. What do you guys think, though, about all of this? I personally think this is a wonderful sign. I think this is going to be a wonderful indicator of what's coming ahead of us. I think that this will be the new norm now, and I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of articles complaining about how LGBTQ themes are roundly rejected in general. But we have seen false promises and hopes before. Perhaps this will be another one of them, but, well, you know what they say, corporations are greedy, right? Only worrying about the largest possible market? Well, I'd say a $1.6 billion success of Inside Out and a $1.3 billion success for Deadpool and Wolverine ought to send a pretty damn clear message, finally. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.